what time it is. It's time for your favorite tax advisor, Mr. Everett James. Hey, Ev, how are you, my friend? Ev, your mic is muted. Okay. There
Uh,
you
okay, hold on a second here.
are. Are you good?
I'm there. I am here.
All right.
Um, let's see. How is my? Just a second here.
Your audio is good. I can hear you loud and clear. All right. So we'll wait for Ev to join us. And guys, I want you to kick back and enjoy the show today. And then also tonight, for cultural excellence, we're going to play some new music, old school, blues, jazz, southern soul. There you are. Hey,
Oh,
Ev.
okay. Yeah.
Okay, you're loud and clear.
Okay, that's great. Okay, well, hold on a second. Let me just see if I can. Am I still loud and clear?
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir.
That's great.
Okay, so what information you bringing to us today?
Okay, well, of course, the first thing, after a little shout out for a local baseball team, um,
Yes.
we're going to do we're going to do, an update, of course, on the government shutdown. And then, since we only have 6 more weeks, Mr. Brown, in this year, I'm going to be looking at what things people need to be doing tax wise in the last 6 weeks of filing tax year for 2025.
Okay. All right. Well, I'm going to sit back and listen to the show.
Okay, thank you so much, and welcome, listening audience. This is Everett James, your trusty tax reporter, coming to you every Wednesday at 10 a.m. On the West Coast and 1 p.m. on the East Coast. We are also reaching some additional stations, such as YouTube and Spotify, and some other international locations. We will make every attempt to meet your informational needs on this weekly program. For those of you who choose to take advantage of the opportunity to participate in our programming, please feel free to call Everett James at the phone number 951-522-9877, 951-522-9877. And on email, evjtax1 at gmail.com, evjtax1 at gmail dot com. And we will provide you with a benefit if you do choose to call in and contribute either comments or a question. Any tax questions, we will make every effort to respond to those questions in kind at the following week's program. If you contact them, believe me, of all the times to contact someone who was at least attempting to keep pace with all of these changes, believe me, this is the great time to do it, particularly since all of it is complimentary with no charges. Okay, folks, first, a shout out to a local youth baseball team that has been in existence since 2023. It's actually called the Riverside United Baseball Club. That was started by Jason and Cicely Wooten, Wooten. Phone number for those of you who might choose to assist this local youth baseball team. The manager's name is Cicely Wooten, Cecily, Cicely Wooten, and her husband Jason. Their phone number for those of you who would like to see what you can do to help this team. Phone number 951-534-3838. Hey, that's a great number to remember by heart. 951-534-3838. This is a team that's been in existence since 2023. It's a travel baseball team, and these guys are hot. And 10-year-old boys, they are hot. And apparently, they have been so successful and have won so many games that they've continue to receive invitations from out of state tournaments. They're currently have an invitation for a team for a tournament rather out in Arizona, right next to California. They are a not-for-profit youth baseball team. Again, their number 951 for those of you who would like to choose to help them, either in kind donations of baseball equipment such as cleats and jerseys and helmets, safety helmets. They are also looking for any kind of help because as of 2023, the parents have often taken care of their travel expenses, particularly out of area travel expenses. But most of the team members are from families that are part of the population that is, you might say, not well heeled, and to really support this team, which has great spirit and a great attitude, in really underscoring, the best principles of living in the United States. They are not really a traditional team because these traditional baseball clubs generally charge a fee. And as a grandparent of one of the local football teams, I can well tell you that the fees are not small. So everything since 2023 has been just pocketed out of, just funded from out of pockets by Jason and Cicely Wooten. By the way, they're the contact person is Cicely Wooten. That's Cicely, Cecily, Cicely Wooten, at phone number 951-534-3838. Easy number to remember, and I'll try to hopefully repeat this information at the end, of this broadcast. But just to give you a little bit of additional information, these extremely talented players really come mostly, from low-income households. Their skills really have surpassed, just general recreational baseball. But the parents' finances really have not allowed them to join traditional baseball tournaments, which cost really an average of about $150 to $400 a month. So instead of letting their talents go to waste, we're choosing to give them the kind of opportunity to experience competitive baseball at a higher level by expanding this group's resource base. They've played in the past local tournaments, but now that the team is really winning, very, very repeatedly and going undefeated, they really have been invited to participate in tournaments that are out of state. Their last tournament was in Arizona this last month. They had at that point, one sponsor purchased and reserved all of the hotel rooms that were needed for the team and their parents. Nothing like playing on one of those teams and having your parents back you up in the stands. Wow. Another sponsor purchased the team jerseys and the the last in kind, donation. The tournament itself sponsored the team by waiving the cost for free. So, we're looking for sponsors in any form of help. Believe me, it doesn't have to be cash. I mean, if you want to make cash, that's fine, but it doesn't have to be cash. They would like to get matching team cleats, helmets, team jerseys, batting gloves. They're also looking for, which would really be great to get matching equipment bags. So when they come out and go off the field, they are seen as a unit. If someone wants to pay out there for future hotel stays, hey, that would be cool. We just want the boys to be able to have the same experience as everyone else in the travel baseball world. They've just started the process of becoming a not-for-profit LLC, limited liability corporation or company, and we'll be filing for a 501c3 in the near future. At the current time, we are open for donations, both in kind, of equipment as well as cash. Please feel free to call the sponsor, Cicely Tyson, Cicely Wooten, rather, and pardon me, the referral to a boxer, but it's Cicely Wooten at 951-534-3838. Okay. Folks, what has happened with the record-long government shutdown? Wow, well, there has been a bill that did get passed in the Senate. House Speaker Mike Johnson, has really had to use a razor-thin majority, GOP majority, but he's very, very optimistic about a final tally that's supposed to take place tonight. This shutdown, wow, has now racked up a record as the lengthiest in the congressional history, and it's one of the major impacts, of course, is the flight industry. Wow, we're all now looking and just wondering where the dollars are going to be coming from for this coming 2025 Thanksgiving, Christmas, holiday season. We're right on the cusp. The shutdown so far has impacted nearly 900 flights in the United States that have been canceled as of this morning, with hundreds of others delayed. The administration is warning that more impact may come due after the Supreme Court, that it will keep full payments on hold, particularly for the SNAP recipients. But the shutdown, major effect and immediate effect is in the air travel industry. Now, there's a strong likelihood that enough Democrats will be persuaded to vote for reopening, the government. But just the same, as far as what your travel plans may experience, is that it's going to be a while, even after they reopen the government, to recover while the shutdown ends. And it could, just the delay in getting this thing passed could impact air travel for months. And but experts do say that the window for sufficient recovery before Thanksgiving is narrow, but it's possible. Essential FAA employees, Federal Aeronautics Administration employees, who have worked during the shutdown will not immediately receive back pay, and some may choose not to return to work right away. Some actually they're never going to return to their jobs and are retiring or quitting to find work where they will not be subject, to government shutdowns. So if the controllers do come back on the job, pilot and aviation consultants think it might take airlines maybe a week or two to snap back. But they do anticipate that with the final reopening of the government, which is expected on a vote tonight, with that, if that does occur, it would still be in time to salvage, a oncoming Thanksgiving, Christmas holiday travel expectations. Now, if the shutdown has not been resolved by the end of this week, then there's a big risk that Thanksgiving and Christmas travel could be, thoroughly disrupted. So we're all looking for that final vote, Senate vote, this evening, and also a companion vote in the House that would reopen the government. As of now, about 890 flights within the United States have been canceled. The country's top airlines have preemptively canceled hundreds of flights, and they're cutting operations really at some of the major airports. Some 40 major airports are cutting operations by between 6 and 10%. Southwest Airlines, roughly 145 flights are set to be canceled today, according to a recent update. Just over 150 flights were canceled yesterday. With Delta, what's going on with Delta Airlines? The Atlanta-based airline expects to run the majority of its schedule today. A Delta spokesman reported, adding that all planned FAA-directed cancellations are complete through Thursday. Nearly 100 Delta flights were canceled just yesterday. What's happening to the United Airlines for today? 271 flights have been called off. At American Airlines, American canceled about 200 flights yesterday, and another 200 cancellations are set for today. So until a deal to end the federal government shutdown is officially inked, airlines have to continue to follow the FAA's order to incrementally reduce flight capacity by 10%. The FAA ordered the flight reductions in response to those staffing shortages driven by the shutdown. And of course, during those the current pay arrangements, our air traffic controllers, they're required to work without pay. But we're all hopeful that as of tonight, that would just be considered to be something that has been resolved. The essential FAA employees, as you know, won't be paid until after the government shuts down. So this has really been a quite ongoing nightmare, and it is the tenor of the shutdown battle has been commented on by Hugo Gurdon. He's a editor. He was the editor of the Washington, D.C. Examiner. And what does he have to say? Well, his recent editorial article will be shared with the listening public. if you listen carefully, you can hear two distinct sounds. One of anxiety, the other of laughter, coming from Washington, D.C. Each is muffled, but not very well. The agony is coming from the Democratic side of the aisle, promising to keep the federal government shut until Republicans add $700 billion more to the national debt. They want to hang tough, but they know that they are between a rock, and a hard place. The second agony comes from President Donald Trump and Republicans who are trying to muffle their reactions as they watch their opponents present them really with a political gift that will allow them to axe government bureaucrats faster than they had hoped. As I say, this is a editorial from the Washington Examiner. The shutdown began at midnight on October 1st last month, and that followed the last tick of the clock in fiscal 2025. And that took place because Democrats really refused any money if the GOP did not extend COVID emergency subsidies and let illegal immigrants go on Medicaid. Well, as you may have heard, this really all revolved around the Obamacare Affordable Care Act that legally authorized subsidies, which had been agreed upon would expire legally at the end of this year, end of 2025. And but now, for the fiscal year being funded, the one side of the aisle just got their backs up and decided to make it, the opening of the government or the extension, the authorized spending extension on the plate that would not be approved by one side of the aisle unless emergency subsidies did not get extended, even though they had been previously agreed to in law to expire at the end of the year. Well, one explanation is happening because the Democratic Party is hopelessly split. Fights over anything and everything Trump and the Republicans try to do. Senate Minority Leader Chuck Schumer is terrified to define his supporters because the last time he did so, which was in March, when he voted with the Republicans to fund the government, radicals, called for his head. So now he has led, by which I mean he's led his followers into a government shutdown. The Democrats' big problem, and in doing this, however, is that the shutdown allows Budget Director Russell Vought, Vougght, who's the chief financial axeman now that Elon Musk is back in the private sector, but it allows the budget director to sack federal workers a lot more freely than he could when Washington was still running. The Speaker, Mike Johnson, Republican from Louisiana, told the Wall Street Journal that Vought had been thinking for his entire life and career about how to downsize the government. And the Office of Management and Budget Director met for talks with Trump on October 2nd to plan where the axe would chop first and where it would go next. Now, you can forgive Mike Johnson his shading of the truth when he also said that the president takes no pleasure in this. And in reality, the president, did not really want a shutdown. Well, one supposes that's true to the extent that Trump and the Republicans would have preferred the disarrayed Democrats to undergo a conversion to fiscal responsibility and agree to vote in favor of the budget already passed by the House. But now that this miracle has failed to materialize, how can the administration not grin? Now that Schumer has led his supporters off the cliff, it would, in the adapted words of Oscar Wilde, take a heart of stone to read the death of little Chuck without laughing. Schumer is already feeling pressure, not the least from the Senate staff workers all around him. The Senate staffers were due to get paid on Friday, October 3rd, but now their checks will not come until the shutdown is over. Will their boss allow the shutdown to drag on so his aide's second paycheck goes missing? We don't know. Two Democrats, Senator John Fetterman and Catherine Cortez Masto from Nevada, plus independent Senator Angus King from Maine, they've already voted with Republicans to fund the government. It would only take 4 more Democrats to peel away from Schumer, additional votes, while the Democrats are constantly pounding before the shutdown itself gets shut. Before the shutdown itself gets shut down. Well, that's one side of the aisle, and we are looking, and most folks in the country are looking for the government to open up again, particularly folks who are dependent on the SNAP benefits. That's a supplemental nutritional program for food benefits. Thus far, various state programs, such as in California called CalFresh, their benefits have been delayed due to this federal government shutdown. So it's ongoing crisis in this country, and this reporter will keep you up to date. To shift to the federal scene again, to shift back to it. Social Security, Medicare. The proponents from both sides of the aisle have been considering those two subjects to be off the table, off the negotiating table. Now, if you follow the policy debates long enough, arguments you've never thought you'd hear are key components of the two parties' policy platforms. And that certainly comes to the two into view when it comes to Republicans and their new never touch Social Security, Medicare positions. So just looking at the Republicans, you wonder. Recently, newly elected GOP Senator J.D. Vance of Ohio tweeted that former President Trump was 100% correct to demand that under no circumstances, this is the Republican president, under no circumstances should Republicans vote to cut a single penny from Medicare or Social Security. Now, to be fair, the GOP's well-intentioned engagement in overall debt ceiling disputes really is limited by short-time Congress attempts to raise the limit. It's all but ruling out what have been the credible reforms that have been suggested for Medicare or Social Security. Reforming these two programs will take a considerable amount of time, effort, bipartisan action, and least of which is courage. This is a reality, but there's no reason to assert that the program's benefits should never be touched. No action from Congress, or continued no action from Congress federally, means no money to pay for all of these benefits. But that means that when the well runs dry in 1936, 1937, it's not too many years from now, approximately 10 years, that means enormous cuts will happen, and that will definitely hurt low-income seniors who truly depend on the programs. Now, of course, if Vance and friends insist on not touching benefits, they could address the Social Security and Medicare shortfall hassles, and they could address those shortfalls with enormous tax hikes. Now, just for Social Security alone, when the trust fund dries out, 1937, or 1936 or 1937, our federal financial leaders are going to have to agree to immediately raise the payroll tax from 12.4% to 15.64%, over a 3% increase, or close a 25% tax increase. And that would represent a 25% tax increase. Add to that the tax hike necessary for Medicare, and then repeat the exercise over the years to fill the entire shortfall. It's not as though we haven't been warning politicians that these troubles were brewing. Back in 2000, wow. Experts already warned that the Social Security Trust Fund would run out of assets by 2037, triggering a painful benefit cut. Today, the situation has deteriorated further, with the trust fund now on track to run out by 2035, 2 years earlier than predicted. And that's along with, it doesn't look good for any practical hope for fixing the problem. In other words, these problems shouldn't surprise anybody. When Social Security started, life expectancies were lower. In 1950, there were more than 16 workers for every beneficiary. That ratio has now dropped to below 3 workers per retiree, and will only be 2.3 workers per retiree by 2035, probably just by 2.0 workers per retiree. Now, you add to this trend decades of politicians buying votes by expanding benefits beyond incoming payroll taxes, and you have a true fiscal crisis on your hands. That's why it's so alarming that so many in the Republican Party are giving up on educating the public that's really been brainwashed for years with misleading sound bites. You've heard them. Well, you've earned your Social Security benefits, so you're entitled to the benefits now promised, or there's an account with your name on it. That's misinformation. That's made a lot of serious discussion of reforms very difficult. There's no question that retirees desire fair treatment. But the facts are that the Supreme Court ruled in 1960, wow, that's over 60 years ago, that workers really do not have a legally binding right to Social Security benefits. And if Congress cuts benefits even by, say, 50%, it can do so much damage no matter how much anybody has paid into the program. It won't come to that, hopefully, but the ruling still stands. It's also a big fiction that all the benefits that have been promised were earned by the workers. Well, they really were not. That's in part because current retirees, they're really paid with taxes from current workers, not from funds that have been saved out of the payroll taxes when the retirees paid, when they paid when they were in the workforce. It's magical thinking to say that touching Social Security and Medicare is a non-starter. It's really, they're considering that more of a non-starter politically, not fiscally. Even more strange, many of the same Republicans want to spare these two programs while still putting Medicaid on the chopping block. Medicaid should be reformed, but at least that program serves poor people. By contrast, who are the beneficiaries of the current Social Security and Medicare benefits today? They're overrepresented in the top income quintile, while younger Americans really are overrepresented in the bottom quintile. So these guys want to cut benefits for poor people on Medicaid while subsidizing relatively wealthy boomers with taxes taken from relatively poor youngsters. Yikes. So anyway, the GOP's transformation into the party of big government and fiscally reckless government is continuing to proceed. And so it's not all on one side of the aisle to lay any blame. Right now, the one side of the aisle is really in the hot seat, and that's because of the Affordable Care Act, Obamacare program. That's really been hiking premium costs, and that's torpedoing their narrative, of serving the poorer part of our economy. What about the current accusations coming from the right, accusing the left of risking a shutdown just to restore the illegal immigrant health care? Ooh, that's not too good, because one of the things that many commentators have observed is, restoring these subsidies, which are needed to for folks to afford to pay the premiums. That was something that was set up from the very start of the program. And many people are saying, hey, what more proof is needed that Obamacare is neither affordable or sustainable when they built in these subsidies right from the beginning of the Affordable Care Act. So the basic reality today, if Congress does not extend the ACA, Affordable Care Act, enhanced premium tax credits, 20 million Americans will see a dramatic increase in their premium costs. And another 4 million people will lose their coverage completely. That's according to Senator Jeanne Shaheen. I believe that's how I pronounce the name, from New Hampshire. She is, just predicting that all of these people are going to lose their coverage entirely. So so these subsidies that are the nub of the disagreement, which has caused the shutdown to take place, that subsidy has been discussed, and brought about a lot of concerns about just the longevity of the Obama era policy. Really, premiums really did go up because of Affordable Care Act 2. Large subsidies were put in place back then to offset the enrollees' costs. During COVID, of course, there were subsidy add-ons, which were scheduled then to expire at the end of 2025. And here we are with the subsidies about to expire with no agreement on approval of the suggested reinstatement of these subsidies. The question is the share that should be paid by the taxpayer. Pouring more subsidies on insurers tends and to entrench the status quo. And it really does mean that that's going to cause greatly higher premiums and higher prices, just in healthcare itself. The subsidizing, some folks have stated that subsidizing phantom enrollees, people with high incomes, and people enrolled in several programs, it really has caused outright fraud, and has encouraged insurance companies raising their costs for everyone to cover the fact that every predicted problem of the Affordable Care Act has been realized. Premiums went up because of Affordable Care Act 2. Large subsidies were put into place to offset enrollees' costs. During COVID, of course, there was all of these subsidy add-ons. So, as again, many people are questioning if subsidies are needed. If subsidies were needed for covered individuals to afford the premiums from the very onset of the Affordable Care Act, what more proof is needed that the Affordable Care Act is neither affordable or is sustainable? Unfortunately, there are a lot of dishonest brokers. They got incentivized to recruit or even invent people, as many people as possible, to apply for the Affordable Care Act. And each new sign up brought along with it thousands in taxpayer dollars. The longer that, unfortunately, that games are played with that, the greater the damage to national security, service members, and veterans. So, again, if subsidies are needed for insured persons to afford the premiums from the very onset of the program, what more proof is needed that Obamacare is neither affordable or sustainable? So this is going to be a real, once the government gets back open, it's going to be a real battle between the two sides of the legislature. Some people say government just needs to get out of the insurance business and let the marketplace do its own work. Socialism does not work in any shape, extent, or fashion. People paying for someone else's health care, some people consider it to be outright socialism. Some have observed when they see people riding around in fat carts at the store, loading up on junk food. Some people say, hey, they shouldn't have to subsidize their unhealthy lifestyle and exorbitant medical costs. So it's with that, what I would like to share with you is an article from Tiana's Take from the Washington Examiner, dated October 29th. And it's called Tiana's Take. The entitled, it was dated October 29th, dated October 29th from the Washington Examiner, and entitled, "Not One More Taxpayer Dime to Bail Out the, quote, the Unaffordable Care Act." So in an October 20th post, Amy Klobuchar, complained that without taxpayers shelling out another $350 billion to $450 billion on extending the Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies, early retirees will see their health insurance premiums increase nearly 300%, from $42 to $1,700 per month. That's insane. If Democrats do not succeed in increasing the $1 trillion cost of the Affordable Care Act's baseline subsidy by another 40% in extending the subsidy enhancements. CNBC complained that Bill and others would have to make tough financial and lifestyle decisions, pulling more money from retirement savings, claiming Social Security benefits earlier than planned, and that would lock in lower lifetime benefits, putting off non-mandatory. It would lock in putting off non-mandatory medical care and traveling less. Of course, that affects the entire economy. So if folks, and there's any kind of a warning, if to congressional Republicans, let it be known that they cannot really budge a single inch on extending the Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies, which Biden originally extended to, or intended rather. They originally intended that to expire by the end of 2022. Wow. So why even 5 years ago, it was intended to expire at the end of 2022. Extending the Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidy would be interpreted as a categorical betrayal of the GOP that has promised to overturn, not just lightly defund. So they, at least from the Republican side of the aisle, they've intended to overturn the Affordable Act right from the beginning. Just recall that Biden's Enhanced Affordable Care Act subsidies expanded eligibility to include illegal immigrants, and also it is intended to include American households that were earning between 400% of federal poverty levels. That's almost $129,000 each year to more than $500,000. Well, only 7% of the public receives Affordable Care Act subsidies at all. That's only 7%. And the overwhelming majority of the benefit of the enhanced subsidies goes to middle class and wealthy earners. Question, should they be entitled to the Affordable Care Act subsidies? Should the enhanced subsidies expire? The premiums paid by households at the federal poverty level, $32,150 annually for a family of four, it will rise from 0 to about 2% of their monthly income, about $55 per month. For a family of four earning more than 4 times the base level, they would be paying a great deal more subsidies and additional increases as time goes on. So the ballooning deficits would directly relate to higher interest rates and more expensive mortgages. So it's really a situation that has been predicted in the past, and it's a shame that these subsidy expansions that took place in the last administration and the subsidies, which include folks who are clearly should not be entitled to the expanded subsidies, has really put the taxpayer behind the 8 ball, particularly those who need it the most, and that's for those in the lower quintile of our earning structures. Okay, folks. With the remaining time, let me again remind you that this station is fully behind helping out young 9 and 10-year-old baseball players with your generous donations. This is for a team that actually comes, from Southern California, the Riverside, California areas, and it has been in existence since 2023. And players, very highly talented players, who, and the majority, certainly the great majority of the players from lower income households, and we're making a plea to get some financial backing, or at least in kind backing for this team, for them to continue to function. Please call Cicely, Cecily, Wooten, Wooten, at area code 951-534-3838. Easy number to remember. 951-534-3838. And we'll be looking forward to your assistance and generous offerings of help for this really talented team, Riverside United Baseball Club. Okay, let's take a look at what is going to be taking place in just over 6 weeks, much to the chagrin of the owner of this podcast and others. The 2025 tax return year, because of the huge numbers, the number of changes to the tax law, the one big beautiful bill signed by President Donald Trump back on July 4th, it's going to result in a delay from what they predict of the tax season, by at least the delay in the filing season by at least a month. But it's time now to review what are your year-end plans with less than 2 months left in 2025. This reporter will be focusing on actions you can take to cut your federal tax bill. There are plenty of opportunities to save on taxes and some tax traps that you'll want to avoid. Feel free to contact this reporter and station to submit questions and comments on the program. Again, Everett James at 951-522-9877, or by email evjtax1@gmail.com. Let's get active, folks, particularly in your own tax situation. Keep in mind that this huge number of changes in the one big beautiful bill, it extends most tax provisions that were in the 2017 tax law that were set to really to end after the end of 2025, and it enhances some new giveaway breaks. It cuts out clean energy credits and more. Many of the changes, that have been mandated in the one big beautiful bill, take effect this year. Others will not begin until next year, 2026. On individual tax plannings, let's take a look at the overall impact on 2025 and 2026. The goal is to reduce your federal tax liability really over both years, not just 1 year. Some taxpayers will benefit tax-wise by just accelerating their write-offs from 2026 into 2025 while deferring taxable income. So again, some will accelerate, do themselves a favor by accelerating their write-offs for 2026 into 2025, and at the same time defer the taxable incomes, from 2025 into 2026. Other folks should consider the opposite approach. You have to contact your tax advisor, person who prepares your tax to get guidance on this. Folks who are itemizing do have flexibility in shifting the write-offs from one year to another. And if you haven't done the shifting, because of the recent One Big Beautiful Bill, and other changes, this is the time to consider those strategies. The one that a big strategy affects the SALT deductions. That's state and local taxes deduction on the itemized Schedule A. Now that deduction limitation has been bumped up to 40 grand, and that's 40 grand been bumped up from the original $10,000, been up to $40,000. So more because of that increase up to the itemized deductible amount being kicked up from $10,000 in prior years up to $40,000 for a taxable year 2025, there's going to be a lot more filers who will just go back to itemizing on the Schedule A. Medical expenses that are deducted on the Schedule A. If the medical expenses that you've had this year in 2025 have been above 7.5% of your adjusted gross income threshold, you should consider procedures before the end of the year. The eligible medical expenses, believe it or not, has always been broad, but it's broader than you think. So you should really check those lists of deductible medical expenses. Charitable gifts, well, they can be bunched into 2025 that you'd usually give over multiple years. So if it's if you are in that income bracket and can and do take advantage of the charitable gifts deduction, bunch them up and as I say, bunch them up and accelerate the deduction, 2026 deductions into 2025. Give donor advised funds to help maximize your charitable write-offs. Contribute accelerated property. Do not donate assets that have fallen in value. Again, give the donor advised funds to help you maximize your write-off. Contribute appreciated property. Don't donate assets that have fallen in value. And note two charitable changes to the charitable contribution deduction that begin next year. Next year, folks who do not itemize can still deduct up to $1,000 of charitable cash gifts. And that starts next year, starting with the 2026 1040s that get filed in 2027. And the amount for joint filers will be $2,000, $1,000 for singles and $2,000. And charitable deductions claimed on Schedule A are subject, however, to a haircut. That new deductible amounts are only deductable, the charitable deduction only deductible to the extent they could that they are over 0.5% of adjusted gross income. So if you're itemizing for this year, you could benefit more than ever by bunching your charitable gifts into 2025. And that's before the half of AGI limitation kicks in. But realize this, you can deduct cash amounts, but only to the extent that the charitable gifts do not exceed 60% of your AGI. The AGI limit for capital gains assets is generally 30%. Keep in mind that excess donations are carried forward. You can carry them forward, for 5 years. Now, it's always vital to reduce your taxable income that you report on your return. but lowering your AGI is also more important than ever. And that's thanks to the OBBB, the One Big Beautiful Bill. Several new popular tax breaks begin to phase out at the modified adjusted gross income levels. And they do now include $6,000 deduction for filers 65 and older, and the $40,000 SALT limitation on Schedule A. The new write-offs were up to $12,500 of overtime pay, $25,000 of tips, and $10,000 of car loan interest. And keep in mind, that's deductible on your Schedule A, but that's only if you're buying the car. This is not for other types of contracts, such as leases. You have to buy the car and not lease it. Okay, folks, it looks as though we have reached the end of our tax tips update for this week. Keep in mind that we are looking for your contributions to the program by calling Eb James at 951-522-9877 or emailing us your questions and comments at evjtax1@gmail.com. Okay, folks, happy Christmas and the Thanksgiving season about to take place, and we'll see you next week.
All right, Ev, thank you so much for the information, guys. And you can check out Ev each and every Wednesday, 10 a.m. on the West Coast and 1 p.m. on the East. Don't forget to come back tonight for Cultural Excellence. And check out your midweek groove. Blues, jazz, R&B, and Southern Soul. We're going to mix it up tonight. So kick back, grab a glass, and enjoy. Now, keep it on all day anyway, because we do play music 24 hours a day. If we have talk shows intermittently throughout the week. So check it out. Check out our schedule. But keep it locked right here on The Buzz. Ev, enjoy your day. Good show, my friend.
Thank you.
All right, my friend. Thank you.